My name is Brother Daniel KC1NCF with Radio Communication and Survival Preparedness, and today's topic is Yes We Can, Preserving Food for Survival. We have a very special guest coming on today. Her name is Sister Colette Muhammad, your sister by nature. She's a certified MGT canner under the guidance and direction of the Honorable Brother Minister Farrakhan. So with no further from myself, I am going to bring our sister on. But she should be popping in any minute. Peace, everybody that's here. I thank you all for showing up. There we go. Our special guest has arrived. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. Peace and blessings, family.
Peace and blessings, peace and blessings. So family, this is our beloved sister, Colette Muhammad, your sister by nature again. She is a certified MGT canner under the guidance and direction of the Honorable Brother Minister Farrakhan. And she's also a special guest instructor on my course, Radio Communication Survival Preparedness. She teaches on canning and food preservation there. Again, like I said in the live earlier, I'm not going to let my sister give away all the game. You saying something?
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry, brother. Go ahead.
So I'm not going to let my sister give away all the game. So y'all going to have to tap in. Y'all got to make sure y'all pull out y'all pens and y'all pads and take these notes. Take these notes because she's going to tell you where you can follow her and how you can get into her course and learn more about canning and how you can start preserving your food today. So, Sister Colette, please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about how your journey into canning and then into teaching canning.
Okay, yes, peace and blessings. Again, thank you. Thank you, Brother Daniel, for having me on this platform. As always.
Praise be to Allah.
And can I just, so things happen immediately after I do a platform with you. Always something, I always get to another level. So, I know that once I get off of here, something amazing is going to happen. So all praise is due to Allah. That's just been the history of these platforms.
Yes,
so I'm ever grateful for being able to come on here with you. So how did I get into canning? So as you stated before, I'm an MGT. So MGT stands for Muslim Girls in Training. Okay, and so that is the title given to the women and girls that are registered believers in the Nation of Islam. And so we have 7 training units. They are how to keep house, how to rear your children, how to take care of your husband, sew, cook, and in general, how to act at home and abroad, okay? And so the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, he is the head of our class, okay? He is the head of it all. And so about approximately 2016, 2017, we were in our cooking curriculum. And so the minister had given us the instruction to learn how to can, okay, how to preserve food, but specifically the canning method, okay? And so we had a very rigorous curriculum for canning. So if anyone here that happened to be an MGT at that time and was in the class, they know what I'm talking about. So let me see some hands if any of y'all out there, because it was very intense, okay? And what I mean by that is we had to learn so much. Like, we went deep into food preservation, food spoilage. I mean, how food spoils, the different types of food spoilages, things like, yeast and molds and bacteria, and what's the best method to make sure that we're killing off those type of things that cause food spoilage. Okay, so that in itself was intense. We got deep into kitchen safety, our fire extinguishers, making sure our fire alarms and things are working. We got deep into that, and we really had to. We couldn't move on until we, graduated and passed certain quizzes. I won't give you too much inside the class, but it was very intense. And so we first started off learning what's called water bath canning. And so it was very intense. As I said, I keep saying that, not to scare anybody, okay? What I mean is that it was just a professional curriculum, okay? Nothing was left, no stone was left unturned. So it was not, just some course just thrown together. It was very professional, very detailed, okay? These are the type of things that goes on in the Nation of Islam The training that we get, you know, is at, you know, the highest level that you're ever going to get. Okay. And so when you come into the nation, these things are free for you. Okay. And so things like that, that you would normally have to pay for, you know, we are able to take advantage of these things on a weekly basis in our classes. And so, and none of it is cut short. None of it is weak. None of it is cheap. None of it is rushed. Right. All very extensive. So anyway, yeah, that's how I got into it. And so, you know, we started off with water bath canning. We moved on into pressure canning. And that is like the backdrop of how I actually learned how to can. And so it's only been a few years. So, you know, I'm not somebody that's been canning for 20 years on a homestead. You know, that's not me. Okay. But I am somebody who followed my instructions under the guidance of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan as an MGT. And I passed those courses. And I remember how it was for me. You know, there was a lot of anxiety and fear and unknown, you know. And so my mission now is to try to come back to my people, you know, specifically, you know, our brown and Black communities, our inner cities, and teach this skill and make it relatable to us. And, right. You know, I can relate to how I felt, right? And so, you know, I think that, you know, that's what makes me a little bit different, you know, that, you know, I can understand why there may be some, you know, reservations of learning this skill, right? And so that's right. Just my mission. My mission is to like bring this to our people and make it relatable. You know, I come to your kitchen, you know, so we're both comfortable. And so that is kind of the backdrop, how I got into it and what my mission is behind it.
Yes, ma'am. Awesome. Now I can bear witness. I remember hearing the minister mentioning learning how to can. He was talking about generally storing up food in your homes and stuff, and he mentioned canning. I don't remember, you know, the exact directive he gave, but I remember just being intrigued by it. And so I went and I researched canning. I went and bought me a pressure canner, and you know, I literally was, like you said, very nervous and you know, not scared, but it's like, okay, I hope I don't blow myself up. I learned a little bit about pressure pots, you know, and how, what could go wrong. And so, you know, what I did was I actually went and watched a million videos. Mm-hmm. I went the long route. I watched a million videos. I read the books like a couple of times, and then I got into it and kept going until I got comfortable. So I bear witness to that. It's a lot better to learn from somebody who's done it and get over those humps in the beginning so that you don't have to do like I do and take a month or two just to even begin. You know, there's someone who can walk you through the steps, and we have to take advantage of that opportunity. And so you mentioned two different types of canning that you did. You mentioned water bath and you mentioned pressure canning. What are the differences between the two? What are the benefits, pros, cons, if any, between water bath canning and pressure canning, and why the different methods?
Okay, so yes, there are two methods. We have what is called water bath canning, also known as boiling canning. And then there's the pressure canning. So when we're using the water bath method or the boiling method, you're going to be using this. Let me just turn my camera real quick so you can kind of see this big pot here. That's called a water bath canner or a boiler canner. And so that method is a method that you will use when you're going to be preserving high acid foods. Okay, so your food falls on the chart of either being a high acid food or a low acid food. All right, so high acid foods would be things like fruits. You know, you think of a lemon, you think of an orange, apples and things like that. They have more acid in them. Okay,
right.
Like if you're making a salsa, or even if you're pickling something. So something that isn't normally a high acid food, like let's say carrots, that's a low acid food. But if you treat it and pickle it, you could actually use this method that I'm talking about because you're adding some acidity to it. Okay, so that's one method. The other method is the pressure canning method. Okay, so that method is for our low acid foods like our vegetables, our navy beans, and our meats. Okay, so you think about that. They don't really have a lot of acid in them, right? And so we're going to have to use the pressure canning method. So let's go back to the water bath method. The water bath
Yes,
method
ma'am.
up to a boil. So that gets to about 212 degrees Fahrenheit. All right. And that temperature is good enough to kill off the molds and the yeast that develop naturally on food. So you'll be okay. But when you start dealing with those low acid foods like your green beans and like your carrots and things like this, you're going to have to use the pressure canning method. Yes. Yes. Okay. So that pressure canner now, let me just kind of show you real quick because I was making, I got navy beans in here actually. They're cooling.
Ooh. Navy beans.
I got some soup
I've had
in
so
it.
many of those.
I might be able to show y'all if it cools down in time. We'll see what happens.
Yes, ma'am.
Anyway, so what was I saying? So yeah, this pressure canner, the temperature in here now, that can get up to about 240, 260 Fahrenheit. Okay. And that temperature is what you need to kill off the bacteria that develop on these type of low acid foods. Okay. So you cannot be trying to use the water bath canner to can and preserve those type of foods. So those are the different types of foods: low acid, high acid, and those are the two methods: the water bath canner and the pressure canner. Okay, so once you get familiar with that, and don't worry if you're not sure, there's various recipe books that we use that will always let you know what method you need to use to properly preserve your food. I also teach, I teach more in detail on that in my workshop, so you'll be okay. You'll figure it out.
Yes, ma'am. So that's interesting because, there's always, not always, but there's been a big topic about, I can't put a time on it, but it's fairly new. It's a big thing about pH balance and all that kind of thing. Everybody's read about their pH balance and all that kind of stuff. And sometimes we don't realize the extent to which that science goes into everything we do, even, like you said, the canning. So when you're talking about low acid versus high acid foods, that's a pH thing. And so it's very interesting. And like, I think it was, who said it? I think it was Treat So Divine that said, oh no, it's pharmacology. It's the reality. It's an exact process. It's an exact science. This is, me teaching preparedness. I'm all about, concrete, plans of action. I'm all about, having the exact way to do something, practicing until you get things down to a science. And so, food preservation, is the main topic, but I kind of wanted to shed some light real quick on why I actually, I'm gonna show us a couple of articles that talks about food and the fact that we're living in a time where food scarcity is the order of the day, and it's going to become more prevalent. And so I just want to show these articles real quick before we continue, just for our audience to see real quick. So flip the screen around. So I pulled up 3 articles. There are a lot more, but I chose 3 of them just to paint a picture. This first one is from The Guardian. Now it says, over 30 million people one step away from starvation, UN warns, right? Now this article was Wednesday, the 24th of March, 2021. So that was just a few weeks ago. It says acute hunger is likely to soar in more than 20 countries in the next few months, the UN has warned. Families in pockets of Yemen and South Sudan are already in the grip of starvation, according to a report on hunger hotspots published by the agency Food and Agriculture Organization and the World Food Program. So that's one article. It's warning us of something coming real soon, within the next few months, it says. And that was just a little less than a month ago. Now, the second article is by the Associated Press. All right, we might be familiar with the Associated Press, some so-called reputable news outlet. I'm just bringing some stuff to the witness stand. So this article was written on November 14, 2020, and it reads, the head of the World Food Program says the Nobel Peace Prize has been given to the UN agency, a spotlight and megaphone to warn world leaders that next year is going to be worse than this year. And without billions of dollars, we are going to have famines of biblical proportions in 2021.
Yep.
Right. And then the last article is one more. This is the Washington Post. The coronavirus intensified a hunger crisis last year, but 2021 could be worse. Now, this was January 6, 2021. The coronavirus pandemic unleashed cascades of suffering in 2020. People around the globe faced the threat of the virus along with the devastating ripple effect of the efforts to control its spread. For much of the world, the legacy of the pandemic will be impossible to untangle from the stark material inequities that worsen it and that it exacerbated. Among the most dangerous of these, a mounting hunger crisis set to grow even more dire in 2021. I just wanted to paint that picture real quick, family, because what Sister Colette is bringing to us is so key. You know, this isn't something that, this isn't the most glamorous topic in the world,
Right.
you know, survival and preparedness. It's not
Right.
the most, you know, out there, and we don't expect to impact anyone that it's not for, if you will. I'll put it that way, that it's not for. That being said, the whole purpose of us being here today is because we really want you. Those of you who decided to tap in, those of you who have the question in your mind about what's going on in this world in these times of uncertainty, how am I going to prepare myself? This is for you. And so we just wanted to give you that. I wanted to give you that picture real quick, and then access to, before I start asking to collect more questions. But before we do that, make sure y'all check out that website pinned at the bottom, www.canningwithcolette.com. Also, follow our sister at Canning with Colette on IG and Canning with Colette on Facebook as well, right?
It's Sister Colette on Facebook.
Sister Colette on Facebook.
Yeah.
Sister Colette Muhammad. There we go. And YouTube channel coming in the near future. Coming in the near future. I'm working with my sister on that one.
Every time I get off with you, every time I do a platform with you, it's something else. So that's probably going to be it.
Right. So I wanted to point that out. But the reality is, our sister, she does this because she loves to, and she brings it to us because she realizes the benefit she got out of it. And I've seen the benefit of it, which is why I made it a big part of the course that I teach. And so now that we got those articles out of the way, there are so many benefits that I enjoy from canning my own food, you know, from, you know, the convenience of it and all that. And I kind of wanted to touch on that a little bit, if you will.
Yeah, I mean, the list, it kind of goes on. All right, so convenience, we'll start there. So like you said, okay, so convenience is a big one for me, right? All of it is amazing, but like convenience is like, I love it because, you know, I get busy, I homeschool, right? I have a husband, children, grandchildren. And so, you know, sometimes it's like, all of a sudden you look up and it's like dinner time and you're like, oh my God, I haven't even took anything out, or I'm not sure what I'm going to make, whatever. It's just the convenience of being able to go into your own storage and pull out something in a, you know, in a situation where time is, you know, is short, right? So maybe you went ahead and you made chicken, but okay, I can just grab my sides real quick. But the thing about it is, it's not just so much the convenience, it's the fact that you know exactly what's in the jar, right? So you don't have to spend a whole bunch of time reading the back of the box constantly and trying to figure out whose allergies this conflicts with, who got, is it pork in this thing, soy, you know what I'm saying? So you don't have to deal with that because you prepared it, right? So you already know it's good. That saves you a lot of time because I know when I'm in a grocery store, like my husband don't even come grocery shopping with me because it's like, this is me in the store. Every item I pick up, I'm reading, or everything I pick up, right? And so
everything, right? You
get familiar with certain products, you don't know what's in it. And even then, you still have to read because they switch stuff up on you. You know what I'm saying? So something that used to not have soy in it, all of a sudden they putting soy in it, right? So you still have to read the back of these ingredients. So the jarred food, like, okay, I got some beef soup here. You know, I know exactly what's in it.
Power food.
I know what's in it, you know? And so like if you're someone that maybe you have your own garden or you like to visit your local public market, farmers market, or you know, you go to the produce section and get the best vegetables and things. you know, you can take advantage of knowing that your food is healthy, right? And the best quality, right? So you don't have to worry like how long has this thing been in the can or how long has it been really in the box. You know for sure. That's why we date our stuff. After you make it, you put a date on it. So there's no mystery, okay? How long this been sitting on the shelf, right? I made this in January. This is new. But this I made actually in April. So these carrots are from April. I mean April of 2020.
Yes, ma'am.
April 25th. And look at it. They look amazing, right? Look at them. Still bright.
You pop that open, they'll taste like you made them yesterday.
Texture looks good, right? Look at that. Amazing. So that is what I'm talking about, right? But guess what? When we talk about okay, you know, there's other ways, of course, you can preserve food. You can freeze your food, right? Okay, but let's talk about that, right? What if you had a power outage? Your food could be gone in a twinkle of, okay? All right, and I'm not exaggerating, right? 24 hours, right? Depending on where you live, right? So it's good. I'm not saying don't freeze food. That is definitely, you know, something that you should do. But if we're talking about, and our brother, you know, he's gonna go deep on this, especially when you take his courses. He really goes deep in these emergency type survival situations. If you have a power outage, if you have a situation where I know, like last year, we was dealing with riots and things like that. They were shutting down the grocery stores. You couldn't get into the grocery stores. I mean, this is where your food comes in handy in these jars, right? So that you don't even have to deal with the fact that you need to run out and get something, so that you don't have to maybe endanger yourself in an environment that's unsafe, right? You can shelter down in place for as long as you might need to until some of these things pass, right? So we know that we had to shelter in place, right? We were told that from our government. We were also told that from our leader, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, to you know, go into our chambers, go into our homes, and you should be okay. If you've been following the guidance of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, we should be good.
Application is the key.
You know, the application. And there are other things, you know, our brother Daniel gets into these other things that we should store up in our homes, right? Not just the food, but, you know, other things that we need to have in our homes for emergency, home invasions, fires. I mean, the list goes on. Like the brother's course is intense. Okay, it's like it needs to be spread over. I mean, he packed a lot in 3 days, but listen, that course is like it is a university level. Like it is very extreme. So anybody that's on here that taken it could bear witness how the value that you get from taking our brother's course like is beyond what we pay for. But yeah, those are a few. Brother, you want to name a few other benefits of canning?
Yeah, so coming from the angle of survival preparedness, now there's a few. So everything you named is right on and exact, and I agree. The convenience of knowing what's in that jar, like you say, like these carrots again. These were done last year in February, and so I know exactly what's in here. These are pickled carrots, right? Pickled baby carrots. Same thing, same time frame. These are some green beans. I have tomato. I make this more often, tomato sauces. I love making tomato sauce and stuff like that. And so, but you know exactly what's in the jar. There's no question. There's no label you got to read on the back, unless you put a label on there yourself. You know exactly what's in the jar, and you're not subjecting yourself to potential harm because somebody else wanted to introduce something into your system, right? But you know, one of the biggest things I teach about it is that when you think about having food for survival in a situation where not everyone's going to be on the same page as you. Now, picture, we don't all have the luxury of living in a home that's 2 or 3 miles from the next home. A lot of us live in cities, and maybe you live in a house, but your house isn't really that far from the next house. It might be 2 houses right next to you. Maybe you do have a little bit more space, who knows? But I live in an apartment. A lot of us might live in apartments or you know, duplexes or whatever, condos. And when you think about eating food in a situation, for instance, say you are in a lockdown situation and the grocery stores were closed like they were early Corona, or the shelves were empty and people were really scrambling for food, and you have other people around you who aren't prepared. And you go into your cupboard and you go into your pantry and you pull out all of this food you've been cooking or you've been canning, and you start heating up you a nice jar of bean soup, right? You start heating that bad boy up, and that smell starts to traveling around, and your neighbors is like, damn, that smells mighty good, right? And then, you know, days go on, weeks go on, and it's like everybody's around you is starting to panic. And this is a reality. You're alerting your neighbors. You're alerting other people to the reality that you still have food, because you got to heat that food up, right? If you're just cooking. Now, the thing about canned food and jar food is that it's already fully processed. So I can crack this jar open, you know, and I can eat it right out of the jar. I might not eat some tomato sauce right out of the jar, but these green beans, I don't got to heat them up. They're room temperature. I can eat them directly out of the jar. I don't have to worry about heating them up, which is going to create a smell and draw attention. Same thing with these carrots or with the bean soup or anything. They're ready to eat, and you know, again, what's in that jar. Now, also, another benefit is that it's already on site. You have the stuff there. These jars are reusable. And so you don't ever have to worry about, you know, as far as when you use canned food, you got to recycle that stuff. You're piling up. This jar is going to contain whatever it is I make in it.
Yeah, teach on that.
Say it again. Yeah. So I take out a clear jar, an empty jar. I put some food in it, and I can put this jar right back into the same box. It's not taking up any more space than it did before I started using it. And then after I'm done using it, I clean it out, put it back in the same box. Now, Sister Colette talked about the reality that there are other ways that you can preserve food, and so I just want to touch on that real quick. There are pros and cons to everything, and so she mentioned freezing food, right? If your refrigeration goes down and you don't have a generator, something to keep that food, keep that refrigerator going or that freezer going, you're gonna lose that food. You either have to cook it all and eat it, or find some other, you know, dump a whole bunch of salt on top of that bad boy like they used to do back in the day, in the cave days, which nobody really wants to do because we're dealing with high blood pressure and all kind of stuff as it is. But the reality is, it's only going to get you so far, frozen food. The other thing is that, you know, some people will be sheltered in place while other people will be displaced. A majority of people who get into food preservation and get into survival preparedness are doing so because of natural disasters. That's probably the most prevalent reason why people actually get into survival preparedness. And so natural disasters tend to be situations where people are displaced. You know, it's not going to be too convenient to carry these jars around in a backpack and a go bag, right? So that's when dehydrated food comes into play. And so there are pros and cons there as well. So I just wanted to touch on that real quick, because at the end of the day, there are more ways to do it, and we are talking about food preservation in general. So those are some of the benefits. But I don't want to.
Another one. I thought you were going to go there. You probably was about to go there, but another benefit about this is that these jars are reusable. All right, let's talk about that. Right?
Yes, ma'am.
I mean, you can use these jars really a lifetime. Okay, so unless something
over
happens
and over.
Jar, when you get a crack possibly somewhere, you can use it over and over and over again. Whereas, like, you know, if you're talking about the actual tin can, once you pop it open, you gotta throw it away. You know, your aluminum can or your frozen food, it's over. You gotta throw that stuff away, the containers, right? But these are reusable. So as soon as I finish using this, I'm gonna eat it. And then guess what? I'm gonna use the same jar to make something else with. The only thing that I can't use is my lid, and you know, I'll get into that in the class. That's more detailed. But everything, it's a great investment. Okay, so you invest in your jars. You get your little utensils. That's it. These little things. That's all you need. These are the utensils. And then that's it. That's all you need. These things will pretty much last you a lifetime, right? There's no reason that you're going to have to replace this big old canner. I can't imagine, unless you lose the top, right? So other than that, you're good. So I like to use this example. I have, so these carrots in particular, I got this actual jar, okay, from Sister Nayera. She sent me some sea moss that came in this jar, okay? And after I finished using the sea moss, what did I do? Jarred me up some carrots.
Reuse that jar.
Now the label is still on here because I didn't feel like dealing with the label. The label on the outside has nothing to do with what's going on in the inside, okay? And you know, once you start peeling off labels, it get all sticky and messy. I just left it, right? And actually, it's a good example now, so I keep using this as an example of reusing our jars. So this jar has traveled. Our sister is from Florida.
Put in some work.
This jar came from Florida. Okay. She had, she had jarred up some sea moss and sent to me. I used it, and then I was like, okay, I washed it out, sterilized it. There's an actual sterilizing process, and I teach on that in the workshop. But yeah, so I just want to touch on that.
No, that you're right. You can use them not even just for food. Like if the jar did get a crack in it, it's still usable. But like you said, I have a few jars that I've actually had gotten other stuff in. I think one of the jars, it's a smaller jar. It's like a quarter pint jar that my wife had. It had something for like a baby shower. They was giving something in it. And so yeah, one of those exactly. And so I took that bad boy and I converted it into a canning jar. Yeah, yeah. And so that's definitely a huge benefit. I see one question in the question box, but I'm gonna wait, see if anybody else has any questions. Put them in the question box, all right? And so now we talked about, the benefits or some of the benefits to canning and jarring your own food. You showed some of the utensils, but can you tell us a little bit more about the utensils and the importance of them? Which ones you're gonna need?
Yeah, so it is real simple. So typically, I usually tell people, especially, that are very new, they want to know what they need. So, I go over the different canners. Of course, you're going to need your canner. And I'm actually starting to sell the canners and the utensils on my website. So if you're someone very new, you can purchase it on my website. But anyway, I usually recommend, if it's your very first time, to buy the kit, buy it in a kit. So usually you will get this is called a jar lifter. This just, all it is this helps you maneuver your jars in and out the canner. And this is a must have. It looks simple. It looks like, okay, whatever. But this is, you got to have it, right? Because you will definitely, could cause injury to yourself if you don't have it. Another important thing, I don't know if I have everything with me. It's just a couple tools. So like you're going to have something what's called a lid lifter. It has a little magnetic tip on it.
Very important.
And this just helps you to maneuver your lids in and out of your canner, okay? So we have to go deep down in that canner because it's huge, right? So we don't want to be trying to figure out how we're going to get it out. This is just an easy tool to do that. It also helps, get your bands out of your canner, all right? It seems like a little small, like non-necessary doohickey thing, but you need it, right? You'll usually get like some tongs. These really help you when you're maneuvering your jars around in your canner. It's kind of, because they fall over sometime, and this really kind of helps. Yeah. Then you have what's known as a headspace ruler and maybe a debubbler. This has two purposes. And they look differently, so yours may not be this color, it may not look like this, but all this is a tool to help you measure what's called headspace in your jar. So all that means when I say headspace is how much room is left from your product of food to the lid of your jar. But you definitely need this because it's very important. Yes. Various recipes, various foods require various headspace. So like jelly, if I'm making jelly, typically jelly in a little jar like this is going to ask for a 1/4 inch headspace. Bean soup is going to ask for like a whole inch headspace. So, that goes on. But you don't have to, this is nothing that you want to really have to commit to memory. When you're using your professional recipes, they're going to give you all that. They're going to tell you what kind of you need. They're going to tell you what size jar you need, because that's important. Like everything can't be jarred in a quart jar. Everything can't be, like I can't be jarring jelly in here, right? Because it's just going to throw off the balance of everything. Some things you can, right? Because I could definitely jar bean soup in this, but what I want to is that economical. Does it really make sense to soup in these little things, right? So you probably wouldn't do that, right? So yeah, so your jars, back to this, yeah. And then sometimes you'll get something like this. All this is a band remover, because sometimes after you've processed your jars, the bands get a little tight around there, and this just really helps remove it, because sometimes it really is an issue. But you can buy these in a set. They're usually fairly expensive, $25, no more than $30 to get everything. One-time investment, though. You see what I'm saying? I mean, my biggest thing with these tools is finding them in the kitchen, right? So I finally invested in a $2 bin, okay? And I keep everything in this bin because, you know, my children do the dishes and then they got the funnel over here, they got this over here, and this is like, where are, you know? So I just keep everything together. All right, and so, yeah, I don't have my funnel handy, but yeah, you'll also have a funnel that helps you, you know, just control the food when you're putting it into your jars. Very simple. So there's just some very simple equipment. Your canner, your tools, and then your jars. That is it. After that, you just need the food. Just need the recipe. That's it.
Right. Right. And so I see people talking in the comments. And so one thing I wanted to talk about real quick is time. Time is one of the most important factors. And then on two different fronts. You have the amount of time that it takes to actually process foods in the whole setup and everything. Yep. You know, water bath canning has a different processing time most times than pressure canning. But more importantly, where time is concerned, is the time that we're living in, the time and what must be done. I like to teach that, you know, and it's somebody call it cliche, and it's not something I came up with. We've all heard this before. You know, don't put off for tomorrow what you can do today. You know, tomorrow is not promised. You have all these little sayings, and they're relevant. They're so relevant to this topic and to this time. Why? Because you can't get tomorrow back. Whatever you didn't get done yesterday, tomorrow you can't get yesterday back. Whatever you didn't do yesterday, it's too late to have done it. So you don't know. You're not promised tomorrow. We have no idea if we're going to be here. Inshallah, you know, it's my prayer that we're all here tomorrow and we all have opportunity to move forward. But the reality is that we don't know. So there is no better description of time that you can give a person on when to start and to get into this other than now.
Yes.
Now is the key time. It's the key word in this. You have to begin now, because we seen what happened as we entered into 2020. We weren't prepared for it. Right. You know, and I like to always point that out in the word preparedness, right? Yeah. Is the prefix pre. Yes. And when you talk about prevention and we talk about preserving, it all points to you're supposed to be doing something before the need arises, right? And so, and why I bring it up is because a couple of things. I see them asking, or Sister Treat So Divine pointed out that Walmart has water boilers for $245. And the prices are going to keep going up, family.
Well, she made a correction.
They're going to keep.
She made a correction, 25.
Oh, under 25. Yeah. So, but the prices will go up, and they have gone up. Especially for the pressure canner, them things have gone up tremendously. The price of the jars have gone up tremendously, and they will continue to go up. And not only are the prices going up, the supply is thin.
Yes.
It's extremely thin. And so that's what I wanted to touch on real quick. If you have anything to talk about the time, either that it takes in the process, but even the time, you know, and what must be done and how we need to get started now.
Yes. And so you're right. Depending on, you know, what you're making, it is a process, okay? But there are ways that we can expedite certain things, you know, when we prepare. So let's say, for instance, going to be making, let's just say bean soup. So I advise us to not, because we can get overwhelmed by trying to do it all in one bang. Not that you can't. Like if you got all day to just be in your kitchen all day and you're just gonna make a whole day of it and from scratch all the way to the end, that's fine. But there is a process. I mean, we have the sterilization of our jars. We have the prepping of the recipe. We have, you know, the whole canning process that, you know, can take a while depending on what size jars you're using. So if you're going to be, you know, doing bean soup in quart jars, I think it's like 1.5 hours to pressure can those, or maybe a little bit longer. But either way, what I'm saying, like the
bean soup in a quart jar.
Quart jars.
Yeah, I know a pint.
The pint is 1 hour and 15 minutes, and you add another half hour. I think that almost 2 hours. So, but you know, it's a process. First of all, just to sometimes do this. Now, I don't want to deter anybody, and because sometimes we get caught up in the time, and it's just like, wow, who has time to do it? We all have time to do it. We just have to make the time. you know. So I've been changing my language, you know, practicing changing my language when I talk about time. You know, we always just like, oh my God, I don't got time to do this. I haven't made time to do it. So I've been training myself.
I like that.
Oh shoot, I haven't made time to do this. I haven't made time to do that. And when you talk like that, it actually makes a difference because you're telling yourself that you have the power to make the time to do it. But when you come right say I don't have time to do something, you've already killed it. You've killed almost the possibility of ever even doing it. So our language, okay, that's a whole nother topic. I'm sorry. But the time and what must be done, you know, this is, you know, we were given this, and I wish I had my books handy, but in Fall of America and How to Eat to Live, okay, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad has been told us to do this, okay? We are grateful that we have the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan in our midst to remind us to do this.
That's a divine reminder.
Some new tactic on how we can make it through to the other side. He is just reminding us of what we've already been told, okay? That will give us life more abundantly. What does that mean? Okay, well, we need more food so that we can make it through, right? And, you know, we have famine on the rise, right? We have unemployment on the rise, right? And so another benefit of canning is if you're growing your own food, or if you're going to like a farmer's market, or if you're in a grocery store and things are on sale, right? You can buy things in bulk, right? And go ahead and come home and jar it up. It's fresh, you got it at a good price, and you can knock out like, I don't know, 20, 30 jars real quick, right? So what have you done? First of all, you got fresh food. Number two, you took advantage of something that was on sale or at a reasonable price, and you're getting ahead of inflation, right? So you're going to save. So this time next year, when you first bought green beans, let's say 10 cents a pound, this time next year, it ain't going to be 10 cents a pound, right? So at least you're ahead of it, right? You're a little bit ahead of the game, right? So we got to get that takes a little practice. But once you get into the groove and you've done it for a while, you will always be ahead financially, right? You just got to get there, right? And so I like to compare canning to exercise, right? So it's like workout. So you know how we are with the gym, you know, it's just like, oh, I got to get to the gym, or, you know, and then we put it off, And so even I'm like that, like I can in waves, right? And I love the fact that I'm teaching now because it really forces me to can more, right? But previously to that, you kind of have your days or your weeks or your months where you're canning a lot, just like working out. You're at the gym all the time, working out. And then all of a sudden you might fall off. I'm saying that to those of us that can already, that are canning, don't beat yourself up when you have moments like that. Just get back in the game. Get back in the canning game. Don't just forget, be like, you know what, I remember I used to can back in the day, right? Or I remember when I learned how to can. Just get back into it, right? Because time is of the essence.
That's right. Yes, ma'am. You said something that's actually, so real quick again, family, thank you for all who have tapped in. Some of you may have came in the middle. I can't really see who's on here right now, but I want to thank everybody for coming and spending this time with us for this most important conversation on Yes We Can, preserving food for survival with Sister Colette Muhammad, your sister by nature. So make sure y'all go and visit that website at the bottom, canningwithcolette.com, and tap in and look at what she has to offer. She doesn't even just have a course on canning. She also, or I'm gonna let her tell you what else she has available, and then we're gonna get into questions. What else do you offer? What can people, how can people support you, and what other types of resources do you offer?
Okay, so, you know, still a little bit new into the game as far as putting it out there for the public, right? So right now what I'm doing is I offer typically workshops, cannings, and I have a couple supplies on there. I have the canner and I have the utensils that you can purchase. Now, when I talk about workshop, my workshop is a 2-day workshop. So I'll have you come 1 week and then you'll come back the following week. And the reason I do that for the beginners is because, you know, I want us to be able to review what we talked about and then practice a second time so that you can kind of get an idea of what it feels like to can on a regular basis. I mean, that's just barely touching the surface, but I don't want you to treat it like just something I signed up for and that was it. So for beginners, I have you come back the second week and then we make a new recipe. I also have it though, if you're someone that, is an intermediate canner or it's been a while, or you just want to make what I'm making. Maybe I'm making something that you never made before. You can also take the single classes. So I have both options there. Now, right now, on my website, I just have the water bath canning method classes on there. Okay, now you cannot 5 just on jellies and fruits and sauces, right? Those are those are typically the type of foods that you will water bath can, right? But they're very important, right? But so now, of course, every time I teach a workshop, everyone's like, so when are you going to teach this pressure canning class? All right, because we have to move forward to the pressure canning class. That's when we get into our vegetables, our meats, and our navy beans or whatever beans that you're eating. And those are definitely the foods that are going to give us more sustainability, right? So those are coming. I reached out to some of you who previously have taken my workshops because you all were pretty much like, I want to sign up first, right? So what I did is I emailed most of you. Awesome. But I hope I emailed you. I tried to remember everybody and sent emails to those people who have already taken workshops with me so you can kind of get first dibs. So that we can set up some classes. Now, those classes are more than likely going to be one-on-one because I really want to be able to give the attention that's needed for pressure. Okay, everybody's canner, all canners are not the same as it is kind of with the water bath canner. All the water bath canner is a big pot. That's all that is. The pressure canners, they're a little different. There's 2 different types. We have a regulator style, then we have a dial style. We have different name brands. And so sometimes depending on the name brand, you just got to maneuver a little bit differently. So what will happen typically in my pressure canning class, I'm thinking that it's going to be a 3-part series. It could be more. We're going to first get into understanding our canner, going over the manual, things like that, getting comfortable with it. Then we'll get into a little bit more actually trying to turn it on and getting it to vent and things like that. And then we'll start getting into a recipe. So it's going to be a little bit of a process. Okay. I'm going to hold your hand all the way through. Okay. But right now on my website, I have a couple just little simple recipes, just something to get us, comfortable. Applesauce. I got jelly. I got some salsa classes on there. So it's not really too much about the recipe. It's just about something fun we can make. And then just learn how to do this. And then you will start making your own recipes. And what I love the best is that when I teach a workshop and then my participants will start sending me pictures of all the other stuff they're making. And that is like the best thing. So I love that aspect of it. But yes, my pressure canning classes are coming. So let me just say this real quick. If you're someone that already knows how to water bath, right? Visit my website and just sign up to get updates, because once those pressure canning classes are available for the public, I can send you out an email and let you know it's time to sign up.
Yeah, so join that emailing list, yeah. So did you already mention your book?
Oh yeah, so also on there I have an ebook, How to Become a Pescatarian, okay? And so I'm a pescatarian, and so I'm a new pescatarian. So it's only been about going on 2 years I've been a pescatarian. So I'm a newbie in all of this, right? And so I'm coming back. Once we learn something, we're supposed to go back, right? And try to help others. We don't need to wait 20 years to be a so-called vet in something to go back for our people or whoever, right? Or to teach somebody something. So I learned how to become a pescatarian, and I have a little method, a little way I did it. And so I just share that with you all. It's a $7 ebook. You get it immediately as soon as you purchase it. And all of those proceeds go to support the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. I send that right to him because that's where I got it from. Okay, so the Honorable Elijah Muhammad in How to Eat to Live, says no meat is good for us. Really, the fish even. So I'm still in stages, right? So, inshallah, I'll get
we all are
vegetarian. Maybe I'll write a book then, right? But right now,
hey, Every stage.
I love my whiting fish and my salmon. So it's a very simple book, just kind of my personal journey on how I became a pescatarian and how you can become one as well. Get the ball rolling on that. So I have that on there as well. A couple classes. I have one right now in April because we've already started the workshops, 2 workshops for this month. So this week I'll be doing part 2. However, if you're someone that already kind of knows how to can, you can still take the classes this week and learn and get into the recipe. So they're different prices. So the actual workshop is currently $50 and you get both days. You also get a canning gift that I mail to you. And then the single class is just $30. So, but you don't be a beginner trying to take the $30 class. You gotta know what you're doing, okay? But then I also have a whole new workshop coming up. Let me see what date. Starting on the 17th and 24th, Saturday.
Mark calendars, family.
2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we're going to be making salsa for that. One of my favorites. Let me see if I got a jar. Here's one of my jars. A little jar of salsa.
Yes.
Okay, so we're going to learn how to make fresh salsa from scratch. Okay, but the first week is usually more of the science of canning, making sure we know what the equipment is, how to use the equipment. We do a practice run that week, and then the following week, we actually make whatever that recipe is going to be, okay? And so that is what I have coming up this month. So I hope I see some of you, and inshallah, sometime soon. And if you're already canning, keep canning until you can't anymore.
That's right. That's right. And so let's get into these questions, right? We have a few, actually. I'm going to ask this one in the comment section so we don't lose it first. Sister Treats So Divine. Sister Yashika, she asks, so do you use other canning jars besides ball canning jars?
That is a good question. So it is recommended by the National Food and Preservation Association to only use the Ball's mason jar. So here is a box I'm going to be looking out for. Ball's. You can find these jars typically in like a Target, Walmart, or your grocery store. Usually in the grocery store, you usually find it like in where they keep like the containers, storage and stuff like that. You can even find this stuff in a hardware store, believe it or not. You can get your jars, your utensils, and your canners. I believe that's where I got my canner back in the day. I got from Ace Hardware store. But you want to make sure that it is the Ball's brand, or there is another brand called Kerr, Kerr. You can use that too. They are official. Because the thing is, you can go to a Michael's craft store, Dollar General, and you can find like little jars, right? Little jars. But they're not made for canning. So the quality is going to be a little different, and it's not recommended to use anything besides the Ball's brand. So that was a great question.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, because these things they're treated to be able to take that high heat and that high pressure. And so you have to be careful because, again, especially with a pressure canner,
especially
really, it has the potential to be a bomb. Just to be straight up with you, I get it. So I got to change the language. I don't want to scare nobody, but you have to make sure you use the right stuff. Yes, ma'am. So let's get to these other questions. Boom. So question number 2 from Farmer Courtney: are you continually canning each week or month to keep up?
Good question. This is a personal question, right? So it's going to be different for whatever your situation is. So depending on your household, how many people are living in your household, where you already are in your storage. If you're new and it's just you, then you're going to start doing some math, figuring out, okay, what foods first do I want to store? Okay, how many am I going to need to get that a minimum? Now, see, this is the thing I didn't touch on. Minister Farrakhan has advised us to store a minimum of 3 months worth of food in our homes. Minimum. I mean, it's really not even touching the surface, right? Because as soon as you start dipping in there, you can blow through that food so quickly. So what you want to do is you want to assess. And Brother Daniel, that's one of his keywords, assess, right? So you want to assess,
reassess, and keep reassessing.
Yeah, reassess, right? So you want to figure out what is it going to take for you to get to that 3-month mark? Because you don't want to overwhelm yourself and say, I got to come up with a year's worth of jars. Don't do that, right? Start with 3 months. So what is it going to take as far as my household, and what food do we really need to store? Because everybody don't eat everything. You know, if you don't eat carrots, don't make carrots, right? Don't do it.
Right.
So you're going to just personally do that. And then you're going to figure out if I'm doing them in batches, am I able to do this once a day, once a week, or once a month to reach my goal, right? So if you want to reach your goal within the next 6 months to have 3 months worth of food in your house, you're going to have to just sit down and do that math. Okay, so I hope that kind of makes sense. It's different for everybody.
Yes, ma'am. Next question. Again, from Farmer Courtney. And I'm just going in order the way they came in, family. What's a good jar supply to start with? 2 cases of each size, of the very small and very big. It's 6 ounces. I guess she's trying to ask what's a good variety or what type of jars to start off with.
Okay, so now again, it's going to depend on what you're jarring, okay, and your household. Okay, so if I'm doing bean soup, let's say I'm doing bean soup, but say it's just really me or me and my husband, that's it in the household. So I might want to start off buying a couple cases of the pints. It depends. Will you eat a whole pint of bean soup? My husband will eat 2 of these, right? So maybe I would rather do the quart size, the bigger size, right? So I would recommend you, once again, assess, okay? So figure out what it is you're making, because different things have to be in different size jars.
Right.
I definitely will start off with pint-sized jars because that's a nice midway. But what I'm saying is, if you know you have a household that maybe is at least 3 or more and y'all all like bean soup, then I would definitely start investing in the quart-size packs of jars so that you don't have to be jarring up a whole bunch of these and having to, when it's dinner, when you're ready to eat, you got to literally open up 6 of these, right? Where you could have just opened up 2 of these. So you want to, save time, money, and space, right? So that's just what you're going to consider. You're going to consider what it is I'm making, how many people are in the household. But typically the pints can get you everywhere you need to be. You can pretty much, not everything, but most things in the pint-sized jars. Okay, so start off with these if you can't, if you're confused. They even come in the half pint size. So do you want to do a bunch of bean soup in these little half pint size jars if that's what you're going to start off with? So first, maybe ask yourself, what am I going to jar first? Don't try to do too much. Just start with 1 vegetable or maybe just 1 bean soup, right? And then start from there and figure out what size jar that's going to start with. If that makes sense, I hope.
Yes, ma'am. No, you think you covered all that. Yes, ma'am. All right, next question is from Majestic Gauge. After you can it, does it need refrigeration? Is refrigeration needed?
That's an awesome question. So no with a big N and a big O. No refrigeration required, right, Brother Daniel? So
that's right.
Another benefit of canning. So once you have completed this process, you are going to store this typically in a cool, maybe dark place. Is best if you happen to have a basement that's low lit. That would be great. If it's very bright, maybe put some dark sheets over it. Your closet, your pantry, under your bed. Okay, wherever you can find space. As long as there's no place that's really too hot, where the temperature fluctuates up and down. Okay,
right.
Because that is going to start to pull from the nutrients of your food and the texture and the color of your food. And so the shelf life will just kind of, it's not going to be all of a sudden the bacteria is going to come back. It's just that the quality of your food is going to start to diminish. So yeah, you don't need to refrigerate it. You don't need to freeze it. anything. You're just going to find a nice, safe place because they are jars, right? So we don't want them somewhere where they're going to topple over and crash. We want them somewhere and sound cool and dark, preferably.
Right. Yes, ma'am. She said it's key. Yeah, 'cause you got to know the environment that you're going to be in, too, that you're in. If you're in an earthquake-prone environment, flood environment,
Right.
you know, if it's a flood environment, you might not want to put them in the basement. If it's an earthquake environment, you want to make sure it's secured in a way where they're not going to be clinking together. If you know, so
Exactly.
yeah. So they actually make containers that you can put them in
Yep.
that'll keep them separated so they won't cling together. But then there's also the boxes that they come in sometimes
Mm-hmm.
have these little cardboard dividers in them.
Yep.
I like to keep those boxes to put them back into
Mm-hmm.
to have somewhere secure for them to keep them together. But also those cardboard cutouts help to protect the jars from banging up against one another.
Exactly.
All right. Hold on. Next question from Brother D'Artagnan. For beginners, what would be the easiest foods and supplies to start with?
Okay, so if you are truly a beginner, I would suggest starting with the water bath. Okay, like I talked about before. Now, of course, you know, it's going to be simple type foods, you know, like maybe some fruits you're preserving, applesauce, sauces, jellies and things like that. I would start off like that just to kind of get you comfortable of what's going on. Okay.
Right.
I would say there. Then when you move into your pressure canner, you're going to start asking yourself, okay, what vegetables do I eat? Right. Because it really doesn't matter what it is. It's all easy. You'll be fine. Then you'll think about
Right.
what kind of meat do I eat? What kind of, so it's, don't even worry about it. So at what you eat is what you're going to start with. So start something first, right? I wouldn't start when I'm teaching you for the first time. I'm not going to jump right into bean soup only because of the time that it's taking to make it. Now, I don't want to make somebody think, oh my God, it's going to take forever. Well, we know bean soup take a little while anyway, but it's just a processing time, right? I would probably start you off with something simple like carrots, green beans, asparagus, things like that. Simple vegetables, whatever you eat. So yeah, something simple.
All right, next question. I think it's mixing up my. Oh, there we go. All right, I think she kind of went into this question, but we're going to post it anyways. Samad Garden Initiatives, Sister Sarah and Brother Blessings Divine. Can you give us an idea of the amount of canned items we want to have as a goal to be, I think it cut it out, goal to be prepared?
So now, what I would say is, I don't know if you've already taken Brother Daniel's course or not, but he actually touches on that a little bit more detailed, giving us a way to kind of assess and chart out what it's going to take to meet your goals, your storage goals, if that's kind of what you're saying. Situation, you're going to assess your situation, what you already have in your home that isn't in jars. Like you may already, you know, you have some canned goods, maybe some dry goods already. So you kind of already got a little bit of stability. So even that comes into play. Some of us don't have any of that. So we really are starting, you know, a little bit behind, right? So it's just a personal thing. I hope I'm answering the question. You're going to just assess how many meals a day do you eat? That I see. I can't answer that question. See, so we even I know Brother Daniel, him and I sometimes touch on that on his platform, what it looks like for a person that eats 1 meal a day, 2 meals a day, 3 meals a day, and how many jars are you going to have to produce to get to that 3-month supply. So we have that all broke down. So you take the brother's course, you'll get an idea of what it's going to take.
Listen, that right there, when you see that mapped out, family, when you look at, and that goes into the answer to your question, when you look at the people in your household. Now, if I was single, living by myself, that's easy, you know.
Yeah.
I don't, and personally myself, I'm a very picky eater, so I don't eat a lot of different things anyway. I can eat bean soup all the time. I can narrow it down and say, okay, it's just me by myself. I want A, B, C, D, and that's it. Four options. I'm just going to can a whole bunch of those things, and I'll be straight because that's all I eat anyways. But when you start getting into, okay, I have a wife.
Yep.
I have a son.
Right.
We don't all like the same things.
Right.
We don't all like the same things the same way.
Yep.
And we don't all want it all at the same time. So there's a lot that goes into that question. Again, all of these questions are going to be personal to you. So where I say you begin is first understanding what can you, because remember, you have to know what's available, right? Now we're getting to a time again where there's a food scarcity thing going on. So the supermarkets don't have as much variety as they did a couple of years ago, but they might have more of what is available there. So there might not be 40 different vegetables in the produce section. It might be 30, but there's more of those 30 to fill in the section. So that's number one. Out of what is available, what do I eat? Yeah. And what do I not mind eating often? Yeah. Because if you hunker down for survival, we're not, you're not going to always eat, like you have the option today. Well, I know I want this today, so that's what I'm going to get. I want this tomorrow. No, you might be stuck eating the same food for a while. So keep that in mind. What can I eat on a regular basis without, getting too tired of it? Because even your favorite food, you're not going to want to eat every single day, unless it's chocolate, right? It's a little levity. And then you have to do that for yourself and then for every member of your family. Everyone doesn't eat the same amount of food. So you're not going to, when you talk about rationing, which is, I teach about that in the course, understanding that you might have a certain amount of food that you're going to eat throughout the day of a certain kind, and you can have that mapped out as a ration, meaning this is exactly what I'm going to eat every day this week, right? To the T, and I know what time I'm going to eat it, but it's going to look different for your sister. It's going to look different for your son than it is going to be for your mother, or it is going to be for your cousin, or whoever else you have living with you. So there's a lot that goes into it. There's a lot of, like Sister Colette said, assessing what you already have, assessing what's available, assessing what you can handle, and then reassessing and constantly reassessing. And that's when we even get into, I teach about fasting and the reality that fasting and practicing fasting will get you to the point where you can go longer periods of time without eating. Right. So then the amount that you have to actually have stored up becomes less. Yep. Also, you're training your body and disciplining yourself so that, you're not so caught up that if you do get hungry, because a person that fasts, we know what it feels like to be hungry and to be able to ignore it. You got to get into that mind frame. It's going to save you a lot where time is concerned, is where space is concerned, and how long you can stretch your food. So there's a lot that goes into that. I hope that answered the question, but that was a very great question. And maybe one day we just let it go live again and we'll break down, like she did in my class, what that really looks like. Because it's when you see it mapped out, okay, this many jars for a person who eats 3 meals a day. This is how many jars you have to accommodate that person at that level each day. It's astounding, really. Next question, because we get into the end of this thing here. Again, from Brother Blessings Divine and Sister Sarah. Can you stack your canned jars, or will that damage the seal?
Okay, so he or she is talking about this here, stacking, right? This is a no with a big N-O, okay? We do not stack our jars. Now, you might see you Googling or you look at people post pictures and they got their jars all stacked up, looking cute. The jellies all lined up, 10 rows up. That's just for show. We don't do that, okay? You do not do that. The reason for that is that you could possibly do what's cause a false seal. Okay, so for instance, you made these carrots, right? And maybe you was rushing or whatever, and you didn't properly check to see if this was properly sealed, right? You went ahead and put it on the shelf, stored it. Then you made this another time, and then you set it on top. So what happens is, over time, the pressure of this jar is going to cause this to seal. It will stick, right? And when you're ready to eat it, it's going to be like it's sealed, right? But the thing is, originally, it didn't seal. So what was going on all that time before you put this on? Bacteria was getting in there. Unseen bacteria was developing, right? And so now you caused it to seal. You open it. It seemed like it, it was on there tight. It popped off, but originally it wasn't. So that is why this is a big no. Don't do it.
So that was the last question, but that's a good question as well. And I like to touch on that false seal, because when you talk about preserving your food, you're doing this because you want to know that you have something ready and prepared, so that if a time of want comes, that it's there. So you don't want to do anything that's going to compromise that storage, that surplus. So you do want to be safe with that. Now, again, we talked about having those certain types of containers where you can put your jars in and protect it. In a situation like that, yeah, there are probably other ways that you can use, maybe crates, certain types of crates, and you can stack the crates so that the weight is being put on the crates and not the jars. And I think I know how to ask that question, because, I took this, the Samad Gardens Initiative class, and they talked about, one of the things with gardening is vertical space, which is something I think a lot of people might not think about. When you think about garden, farm, you think about land going out this way, but you can actually grow like this. And so I know that in their mind, they think that way, which is a good way to think, using vertical space. Because if you think about it, vertical space is very underused. And so that's a very good question to that point. And so, no, you cannot stack those jars right on top of each other. You have to make sure that you're not compromising that seal.
Right.
But thank you. That's a very good question.
Good question.
And so we're winding down now. I want to thank again everybody that tapped in. This has been an extremely informative and fun live. I've enjoyed everyone's energy, and I want to thank you all who invited someone to come and join. Now, I've seen also brother and sister put in the chat about a place where they went and got jars, Fillmore Container. If you can, and this is to everybody, I'm going to save this live. Can you please go back and let us know in the comment section after we save it what value you got from this live, what something you may have learned, maybe even tag somebody in the comment section and to invite them to watch the replay. But let us know what you thought about the class, what you learned, your general thoughts, comments, and even questions. If a question comes up later, feel free to put it in the comments. Me and Sister Colette will be tagged in this, and so we'll see the questions and address them as best we can. Also, feel free to hit us in our inboxes as well if you have a question. But again, you see that site at the bottom, CannonWithColette.com, at Cannon with Colette on IG, Sister Colette Muhammad on Facebook, YouTube coming soon.
Right.
And yes, ma'am. Also, you can find me at Brother Daniel No, I'm sorry. You can find me at. I have so many different pages, family. You can find me at Canning or Radio Communication and Survival Preparedness, Daniel KC1 NCF on Facebook as well. Daniel KC1 NCF on YouTube. Make sure y'all go follow me and subscribe to those two accounts as well. Look out for more lives, more videos, some unboxings that we're going to go do. Also visit www.radioprepare.com. I'm going to put that in the comments real quick, www.radioprepare.com. That's my website if you want to tap in and get our radio communication and survival preparedness course. But Sister Colette goes even more into what she talked about today. More game, not as much as she gets in her class, but more game in that class as well. Tap in with us, family. We thank you all for coming through. You have any final closing words for the people?
Yeah, just if you are already canning, continue to can. And if you're nervous about canning, my mission, another one of my mission is to help remove fear and anxiety by coming to your kitchen. My kitchen is your kitchen. You're in your own comfortable space, and time is not, of the essence when we're doing these workshops. I don't rush you. I make sure that you get, a proper understanding of what's really going on so that you can produce a safe, healthy item that you can store in your home. So go ahead and check me out and share this information, like our brother said, with others who you think might benefit from this. This is the time and what must be done. And yeah, just thank you all for tuning in.
That's right. And I see a question had just came in, or not a question, a comment, and I appreciate that comment, family. Can you please, when we save this, share that comment in the saved post? Because they will not allow us to, or they do not put the comments in the saved video. So none of the comments that are in here, the questions will be seen unless you reshare it on the saved version. So I would appreciate if you repeat that in the recording or the playback. I appreciate that very much, family. This has been another live interview of a great mind, a great soul, and a great spirit, Sister Colette Muhammad, your sister by nature, of Canning with Colette. Thank you, family, for tapping in. Brother Daniel, KC1 NCF, tapping out. Peace.
Assalamu alaikum. Peace.
Wa alaikum salam.